Chef Ramsay rules the kitchen, but if you get on his bad side, he'll chew you out. And these are the times that Chef Ramsay lost his mind on Hotel Hell. In the first season of the show, we're introduced to the Juniper Inn in a 2-part episode. Yeah, I know, the madness was so intense that the show just couldn't cover it in one episode. But was it worth getting all that footage? Chef Ramsay traveled all the way to Windsor, Vermont to visit this iconic hotel. Now, why exactly do I call it iconic? This hotel was 110 years old. And guess who owned the place? An antiques collector named Robert Dean II. Robert ran the hotel alongside his boyfriend Ari Nicky, and boy did these two have an unusual way of running it. You're gonna be amazed as I unravel the many details of this establishment. Firstly, the hotel already had historic importance. But what made it unusual is that Robert filled it with a ton of collectibles from around the world. There were so many antiques throughout the hotel that there were no rooms available for the guests. That's kinda dumb. Anyway, Robert didn't use the antiques to decorate the hotel, which he ideally should have. Instead, he used the hotel as a storehouse for his wide collection. This place looked like a hoarder's house. Despite that, the prices for the rooms went through the roof. This definitely couldn't be justified with the kind of service they were providing. And they only accepted bookings under some outrageous conditions. For one, the minimum stay was 2 nights, and each night would cost you $350. Now, that's a pretty steep price for a storehouse, right? And although he made sure that the customers paid on time, he didn't pay his staff with the same promptness. While the staff waited for days to get their paycheck, Robert continued to enjoy his luxurious lifestyle. It's not like he didn't have any debt though. He just spent really recklessly. However, he made it look like he was struggling to make ends meet. But at the same time, he was giving away free meals and rooms to his buddies. And what did the staff get? Nothing. They were even robbed of their tips. It looks like the Juniper Inn was gonna make history for a different reason, for being the worst hotel. Once he arrived right off the bat, Ramsay made his way to his room. He was immediately thrown off by a disgusting smell. But of what? Hear it from Chef Ramsay yourselves.
I mean, that is horrific. Oh my god, it smells like sewage.
He immediately asked Robert to change rooms since there was no way in hell he would even think of staying there with that smell. When he arrived for lunch, he was informed that they only offer meals throughout the day upon request. Plus, they were only open for breakfast and dinner, which completely confused him. What do guests do for lunch then? Eat the antiques? Chef Ramsay was furious. And to add to his anger, Barbara, a staff manager, then spilled the beans about having to wait forever for her paycheck. What's more, she wasn't the only one facing this issue. Chef Ramsay was eager to help her out, but before that, he was shocked by the menu. Why was it missing the most important detail? Where were the prices? Robert revealed that they had a fixed price menu that cost $59 for 3 dishes. While $59 is pretty steep, was the food at least good? Ramsay ordered crab cakes and they were disappointing. Aside from being extremely tiny, were they any good? Oh, you wish.
That thing tastes sort of washy and soapy, and $20 for that.
Chef Ramsay then ordered some lamb for an additional $15. But once again, it was awfully sweet and wasn't even cooked right. At that point, Ramsay realized that the prices were terrible. But the famous chef was even more shocked by another revelation. Despite supposedly being below the poverty line, Robert and Ari lived in a $100,000 RV motorhome parked outside the inn. That's a rich way of being homeless, don't you think? But this really had a negative influence on the staff's morale, and Robert's high-handed attitude only made things worse. However, Ramsay was here to observe the dinner service before criticizing anything. He didn't have much hope after his god-awful lunch, which was justified. The kitchen tried to serve burnt food. Now, Chef Ramsay had seen enough and gathered everyone for a meeting. The staff made the most of this opportunity and poured their hearts out. From speaking about the lack of structure to the lack of payments, the staff were filled with a ton of complaints.
No one has been taught any standards.
I'm racing from thing to thing. Nobody knows what the other one's doing.
As things began to get heated, guess who stepped things up? Ari.
Excuse me?
Bragging about making one plate is nothing to brag about.
Excuse me.
It looks like he finally found his voice, but guess what? Chef Ramsay wasn't impressed. He made it clear that the owners had no authority to expect any work from the staff, especially when they didn't pay them. I'm honestly with Ramsay on this one. But Ari's only response to the complaints was that they weren't being forced to work for him. Where was his respect? After being silent for so long, trying his best to control the situation, Chef Ramsay was pissed. Ari was being arrogant and Ramsay just couldn't keep his cool. Their attitude and lack of remorse made him so angry that he couldn't hold back any longer, especially because Robert was absolutely convinced that his management was right. Ramsey then ripped Ari and Robert a new one by saying this:
Start growing a pair to sort of understand the mess you're in.
When Robert paid no heed to Chef Ramsey and continued to rant, Ramsey had to stop him. And this is how he reacted.
They don't have to work here.
How dare you?
But Robert still wasn't convinced. And when he tried to cut Chef Ramsey off, the famous chef put him right back in his place by saying this:
Excuse me.
Go on then, you pompous
Ramsey then asked Robert and his partner to get real and left on a sour note. Robert wasn't only disrespectful, but also a thief for keeping the money that he owed his staff. But things got way more intense in this next one, since Chef Ramsey not only lost his temper, but also lost his mind. How could anyone be so dumb? Well, you're about to find out. However, if you ever wanted to see Chef Ramsey's best moments, but ended up hitting a roadblock thanks to the various terms and policies, then don't worry, because today's sponsor is Atlas VPN. I love using Atlas VPN when I'm watching various TV shows, and with over 6 million users worldwide, Atlas VPN is by far the best deal you'll ever find. Not only will it help you with unlocking your content, but also make your viewing experience better without any interference from annoying ads and malicious trackers. Yes, Atlas VPN makes sure your Google search history is secure and private. And what's more, all it takes is just one subscription to protect all of your devices. So what are you waiting for? Come and unlock your favorite content on the internet for just $1.83 per month. And since you're so special, Atlas VPN is offering you, my subscribers, a 3 months extra package with a 30-day money-back guarantee. I highly recommend getting it. It's been super useful and makes me feel safe when I'm watching TV shows online. So hurry up and get this deal before it expires. Now that you know how to stream all the episodes of Hotel Hell, let's take a look at what angered Chef Ramsey in this next entry. In Season 2, Chef Ramsey took a trip to Pipestone, Minnesota to visit the Calumet Inn. It's here where Rena and Vanda Smirkovsky, two sisters, own the historic Calumet Inn. The 1887 construction of the Calumet Inn was given its name from the Native American phrase for peace pipe. Their father, Jim Smirkovsky, purchased the motel on their behalf. He hoped his daughters would turn the place into a family legacy, but little did he know what he was getting himself into. After 6 weeks of working there, Rena decided that it was too much effort and left for Minneapolis. She didn't come back for 3 months and left everyone hanging dry without even explaining why she left. Vanda, Rena's younger sister, was placed in charge of managing the hotel while Rena was away. She didn't leave her bed until after 3 p.m. and completely disrespected her employees. What was up with these owners? Vanda and Rena believed that they were experts despite having no prior hospitality experience. But the person who actually did have this experience, Mandy Thompson, the general manager, was oddly stripped of her power. Things had quickly gone downhill since the girls took power. Things had gotten so bad that the girls' parents had to move in. Rita, their mother, worked 7 days a week and continued to support her daughters despite their pathetic behavior. But would Chef Ramsey be able to tolerate their arrogance? After checking in, the famous chef was led to one of the hotel rooms. Here, he discovered a rotting refrigerator, a rail for a wardrobe, and lamps that didn't even have bulbs. According to Vanda, she was in charge of the front desk, bookkeeping, and occasionally the dining room. But of course, she really didn't do any of that, and Rena was still unsure about her own responsibilities. However, Chef Ramsey discovered the truth when he tasted the food. Mandy revealed that Vanda was a sociopath, and Rena basically never showed up. When the locals learned about Ramsey's arrival, they started booking rooms in large numbers. But soon, they began to complain about the accommodations, cuisine, service, and lack of personnel. To get some better insight, Chef Ramsey called for a staff meeting. And believe it or not, this was the first ever staff meeting since the sisters took charge. Mandy claimed that one of the causes of the hotel's demise was the lack of communication between the owners and employees. As their discussion intensified, Mandy erupted over working 60 hours a week with 2 kids. Somehow, the sisters tried to downplay that. As a result, things got so heated that Mandy simply walked out and basically quit.
Off. You stupid b****.
The sisters didn't realize that she was the reason their hotel even stayed open. The rest of the staff then pitched in with their own issues, but the sisters kept shutting them down. After seeing the awful turn of events, Chef Ramsey only had one thing to say.
If you were my daughters, I'd kick you out.
What Ramsey said next was something that should have been told to these sisters a long time ago.
But what I do know is, you don't deserve this.
Yeah, he really went there. And who could blame him? These girls had no idea what they were doing and were clearly wasting their time and energy. Ramsey then gathered a few of the guests and asked them to give their feedback in front of the owners. And well, things went south very quickly. The guests said that the rooms were neglected and dirty. One of them even said that her room was so dusty that she felt unwell after spending the night in the room. It definitely wasn't worth staying at this dump. Chef Ramsey then took the sisters out for a chat about whether they believed they were capable of running the hotel. And when Rena began to act up, Ramsey couldn't hold back his frustration any longer and said this.
I would myself asking you to run my dog, let alone a hotel.
That was brutal. But Rena had this coming, especially considering how rude and disrespectful she was towards the entire staff. But that's nothing compared to this next set of owners who had no idea how to behave professionally. And an earful from Chef Ramsey himself was just what the doctor ordered. Chef Ramsey visited the Murphy's Hotel in Murphy's, California. This place had the town's oldest structure, which was beautifully encircled by vineyards. The hotel, which was there for 150 years and registered as a landmark, had housed famous people over the years. This included former presidents. The current owners were three friends named Brian Goss, Kevin Clerico, and Joe Latagnola. They had only recently purchased the hotel. While Brian oversaw the dining area, Kevin oversaw the bar, and Joe worked as the chef. As for the condition of the hotel, there were modern bedrooms with dated furnishings, but nobody was in charge of the upkeep. So that was just one of the many reasons why this hotel was falling apart. Ramsey was fascinated by the hotel's historic status, but when he arrived, he saw that the only thing historic about it was the name. Kenitha Smith, who had been working at the hotel for a year and a half, hated the owner's poor managerial skills. She believed that they were using the hotel as a private playground and claimed that they were performing drunken lap dances. Now, that's just completely unprofessional. But Chef Ramsey was then pleased to meet the employee of the month, Brian. Wait, isn't this guy one of the owners? Well, he is, and apparently, he bestowed the honor upon himself. That definitely speaks a lot about his character. Chef Ramsey then got to meet the two other owners, Kevin and Joel. He then learned that Kevin was the lap dancing guy. All of them thought that they were in command, but none of them actually took charge of anything. And this was made more evident when Chef Ramsey sat down to taste the food. He was served by Brian, who had to ask Joel for help in the kitchen because he had forgotten the specials. Yep, that's how much they cared about their own business. Later, Ramsey inspected the kitchen and found an absolutely disgusting freezer full of moldy, outdated food. And this is what he had to say.
This is your dream of running a hotel. Then how about manning up and look like owners?
Chef Ramsey was so angry that his face was turning beet red. The three of them then went on to clean out the freezer, but soon enough, they gave up and went ahead and joined the party. Chef Ramsey, however, was still wide awake at 1 AM because of all the noise. As he made the effort to find a calmer place, he ended up at the bar and saw something unsightly. Brian took off his shirt. Brian told Chef Ramsey that he was upset and that what happened in the freezer was inappropriate during their conversation. But what about what he was doing now? Was that not inappropriate? This was the first time Ramsey came across this level of chaos, and he was in so much disbelief that this is what he said.
You ever see 3 CEOs, 3 executive chefs? It's like dumber, dumber, and dumbest.
The following day, the employees claimed that the owners were dishonest and treated the hotel like a fraternity. Hopefully, Chef Ramsey's words changed their perspective. But this next pair of owners were even worse than the previous ones. Built in 1736, the Curtis House Inn was the state's oldest hotel. The hotel was managed by the Hardesty family for almost 60 years. This included Chris Hardesty and his sister TJ Brennan, who were the 4th generation to do so. The inn's decline had strained the siblings' relationship, and this had an impact on both the inn's management and the family's relationship. When Chef Ramsey first arrived, he liked the exterior of the inn, but disliked the sign immediately and called it distasteful. Ramsey then discovered that there was only one visitor scheduled for the night, and that was none other than him. He was informed that there was a surcharge of $10 per hour, even though he'd arrived 4 hours early for a check-in time of 3 p.m. Who does that? Penalties for showing up early? That's just lame. Chef Ramsey was shocked and tried to take a nap on the couch in the lobby. But Shirley didn't take this joke very well and berated him. As Chef Ramsey returned to the front desk, he discovered that his credit card details were scribbled in a book that was visible to everyone. Shirley said that they do that, but removed it if visitors asked. Chef Ramsey couldn't believe how careless they were about their guests' information. Ramsey then decided to make a point by doing something that nobody expected him to.
I got the credit card details for everybody.
I will have to call 911.
But did you really think that was enough to teach the owners a lesson? It certainly didn't. Soon after, the owners assigned Chef Ramsey a very peculiar room to stay in, room 16. And why was this room so special? Because, well, it was haunted.
She said the ghost was pulling the blankets off her all night long.
And you haven't been drinking sherry?
Well, haunted or not, one thing's for sure, this room was absolutely filthy. The place was covered with layers of dust, dead insects, and a footprint-smeared pillowcase. What's more, the poster bed canopy came crashing down on Chef Ramsay's head. Wait, was that the ghost? It looks like Ramsay's stay was jinxed before it even started. The man even got locked inside his own room. As for the tasting, that didn't go very well either. The restaurant's chef cooked like he hated the inn. The staff were up to their necks with complaints about the management and claimed that the standards in the kitchen were practically non-existent. Chef Ramsay wasn't impressed either, and by now, he was well aware that the hotel was failing due to the lack of communication. He ordered for a staff meeting, and this is when all hell broke loose. The owners were so disrespectful that the employees felt like they were in hell without any escape. When one complaint began to follow another, the owners couldn't handle the backlash and broke into a fight amongst themselves. This, apparently, was a really common occurrence. When Chef Ramsay listed out all the issues that came up, he said,
And I am not f***ing happy. Both of you are sleepwalking to disaster.
Yikes. That was harsh for sure, but the owners needed to hear it if any changes were going to be made. So, these were the times that Chef Ramsay lost his mind on Hotel Hell. I'm sure there are a lot more, some of which I've covered on the channel already. So don't forget to check out my other videos, and while you're at it, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll be coming back with more, so thanks for watching, guys!